Coming up next on Art Rocks, we're remembering a New Orleans painter and sculptor who left a profound legacy in several mediums.
I think that the idea is to stay as honest and as truthful as I can to myself and do those things that I feel are important.
We're with a Lego enthusiast, proving that playing with blocks isn't just kid stuff.
A Lego project would be a great way to teach kids about history because Lego is the #1 toy brand in the world.
The one tool that no ballet dancer can do without.
For a ballet dancer, point shoes are like the most important instrument that you have. It's basically an extension of your body.
Plus, the ancient art of weaving.
We're proud to still have the knowledge, and we're proud to honor those people through each piece we create.
That's all right now on Art Rocks.
Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello and thank you for joining us for Art Rocks. I'm James Fox Smith, publisher of Country Roads magazine. We begin with a Louisiana artist who truly let the sidewalks of New Orleans speak to his soul and his imagination. Despite a humble start, he was born on a farm in Gentilly and later lived in the 9th Ward. John Scott went on to receive national acclaim and a MacArthur Genius Grant for his paintings, prints, collages and famous kinetic sculptures that capture the city's vibrant African-Caribbean music culture.
I've often asked critics in interviews, like, if I sat here and could speak 7 languages fluently, what would you say? You know, and they'd probably say I was brilliant. But if I could speak 3, 4, 5, 6 visual languages fluently, they say I'm not focused. But that's not my problem. I think the idea is to stay as honest and as truthful as I can to myself and do those things that I feel are important. I think I've been doing this since I was about 5 years old. And I think it came out of my family because the way my mother taught me to embroider when I was 6. And I think in the family it was if you needed something, you made it because there was no money to buy it. But the rule was whatever you made it the best way you could possibly make it. And I think I just took it for granted everybody did that. You know, the idea of making things, recording things, that's just fascinated me all of my life. To understand the work, I guess, is to understand how I work. More than 35 years ago, I started working with what I call a jazz blues consciousness. If you think about the blues is very narrative, very figurative, and I enjoy working figuratively. But at the same time, I enjoy working very metaphorically, very abstractly. So that's the jazz side of it. I wanted to pay homage to Louis Armstrong in some way. And I decided to do it as 4x8 foot sheets. And instead of using conventional tools, I decided that I would give up control in order to gain control. So rather than cutting with conventional chisels, I chose a chainsaw. I was very fortunate growing up. I went to Lockett School and ended up having a couple of really good teachers, especially a woman by the name of Miss Lockett that taught things like drawing and stuff like that. There was a man there by the name of Mr. Conrad, Joseph Conrad, who taught industrial arts, but really who taught life. And for a young kid to be around somebody that was that creative, that could do all these things, you know, I mean, that was a great training ground. There were art teachers in these schools, and they weren't people that was there for a job. It was people that were trained. And I was lucky enough to go to Booker T. Washington High School, where I feel that I met my first mentor. His name was Albert Jean. He had taught in a college, but he had found that he couldn't feed his family teaching in a college. His salary was so bad, so he went to a high school, and we both arrived at this high school at the same time. And he trained us like We were in college. And in fact, some people think he trained us like we were in graduate school. But he was a disciplinarian. He believed in fundamentals. If you're going to learn to do something, you truly learn to do it. So I got taught in the classical fashion. Like I learned 1, 2, 3-point perspective drawing in high school. And then he recommended me, well, he suggested that I go to Xavier. And I had thought, I'm going to go to a big school somewhere. Most kids dream. And he talked me into looking at Xavier as a possibility for learning. And it was probably the best decision I ever made in my life. When I got to Xavier, Xavier was the only university in the United States that had an artist guild. And what I mean by that is that the students in the guild at Xavier were literally doing work around this country with our mentor, Sister Lorena, this master artist. And to give you an idea of the magnitude of that work, when I was a junior at Xavier, I did the sculptures that run around 5 buildings for the Naples County Civic Center in Naples County, Florida. I did that work as a junior in college. So that's the kind of training that we had. And at Xavier, I think the most important thing that I learned there was that medium is like language. There is nothing wrong with speaking 5 or 6 languages fluently. Your responsibility is to learn to speak them fluently. So that, to do watercolors, to paint, to be able to do sculpture, I was trained as a calligrapher. All of those things were part of what we did. I remember going up to the art department, and a sculptor by the name of Frank Hayden was working, who was a dear friend of mine, was working with Sister Lorraine on a project. And I remember somebody handing somebody something, and they said, "Thank you." But the response was not, "You're welcome." The response was, "Pass it on." And I have never forgotten that. And the reason is that the philosophy there was the only way you can thank me for giving you something is you have to give it to somebody else. And that kind of philosophy is still at that school. In fact, as long as I'm there, it'll be in the art department. But it's also in this studio and every place I've ever gone, that if you have something that's been given to you, you're obligated to give it to somebody else.
Scott taught art at Xavier for 40 years before his death in 2007. No matter where you live in Louisiana, opportunities to connect with the arts are everywhere, if only you know where to look. So here's a list of some cultural goings-on coming up all around the state. To learn more about these and other events in Louisiana, visit lpb.org/artrocks or pick up a free copy of Country Roads magazine. LPB's Art Rocks website also features an archive of previous episodes, so to see any segment again, just log on to lpb.org. Lots of kids will be hitting Santa up for Legos this Christmas season, but the colourful blocks are much more than toys for one father-son combo who call Florida home. In the hands of Jack Little, Lego becomes a powerful educational tool. Here's Little to show us how he uses Lego to connect with kids to teach one of the most important events in railroad history.
There are tons of adult fans of Lego, or AFOLs, as it's known on the internet. One of the great perks about living in Central Florida is they recently opened a new Legoland park. They have tons of different attractions, and of course, best thing about it is the huge Lego store they have at the entrance. Absolutely tons of fun. My name is Jack Little. I have recently created a Lego project on Lego ideas called the Golden Spike Ceremony, which is a Lego model of a very famous historical event in Utah that happened in 1869 where the Transcontinental Railroad was completed. Lego Ideas is a new program that Lego is doing. It allows regular people like you and me to submit ideas on the ideas.lego.com website. You can either take a picture of a Lego model that you made or design it on the computer like I did. And once you submit it and it gets approved for voting, if it can get 10,000 votes within a certain period of time, LEGO will consider selling it worldwide, and you will get credit for that design. They'll take your design, they will review it against other projects that have reached 10,000 votes during that same time, and if they decide that they like it, they will create their own version of it and pack it up, mass produce it, and sell it as an actual LEGO set. Some of the earliest memories I've had with trains are through mainly my father, who was also a big train buff. I've always been a big fan of railroad history, and the Golden Spike ceremony is the most important moment in American history in terms of railroads. During that ceremony, the rail networks of the West Coast of the United States and the East Coast of the United States were connected for the very first time. Prior to that, if you wanted to go from, say, like New York to San Francisco, it would take months. Once the rail line was made, you could travel that same distance in a week. So it was a huge deal, huge revolution in transport in the country. The Golden Spike ceremony happened on May 10th, 1869. It was built over the course of several years. Actually, it started when the Civil War was still going on. Abraham Lincoln approved the funding for its construction. Jack, where's Batman? Which one's Batman? My son's name is Jack. He is 2.5. Yes, good job. A Lego project will be a great way to teach kids about history because Lego is the #1 toy brand in the world, and the best way to reach children is through toys. Jack, you want to see the Lego choo-choo? Want to see it? Look, come see.
Daddy's gonna make it blow up.
You want to see it blow up and crash? The computer program that I use to design the Lego project is called Lego Digital Designer. It's a free download that Lego provides. The way I designed the Golden Spike project was I looked at the photographs of the actual engines that are there in Utah at the actual historical site. You can visit them. And I matched them up and I used the Lego pieces that you have on the computer program and just used basically a lot of trial and error. Now press the button one more time.
Oh no.
Let's do that again, just for kicks. Yeah. It's a really cool little novelty feature in Lego Digital Designer, just making your project explode. I suppose if it wasn't working the way you wanted to, it's a great stress reliever. I've always been a big fan of Legos. When I was a very young kid in the late 1980s, my dad was stationed in an Air Force base in the Netherlands. And of course, Legos are based in Denmark, so that's really when we started experiencing it. It was like a cultural exchange almost. There's never going to be a replacement for actually building it in real time. One of the great things about Legos is it's a great retreat from a lot of the electronic toys that are out there. It enhances creativity. If you go out to the more advanced Legos, you can get to like engineering with the different wiring and the different components. Possibilities are endless.
There's one tool that every ballet dancer needs. It allows movement through the music, a connection with the choreography, and it is as unique as the dancers themselves. Here's the story.
The shoes are a very, very big deal. It is the tool that the dancers need to do their job. When you're dancing, you want to be thinking about your technique, you want to be thinking about your performance, you want to be thinking about the story that you're playing out on stage. You don't want to be thinking about your foot pain or my shoe's falling off or my shoe is dying. Building the perfect tool for them is really very, very important. My name is Searcy, and I am the shoe room coordinator for Houston Ballet. We have over 50 dancers at Houston Ballet in our company, and each of the dancers has a specific shoe need. The women need custom shoes most of the time, custom point shoes. They are on their toes, you know, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Hey, Molly.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. We're always working to find the best shoe. My feet are 2 different sizes. I wear a 9.5 on my right and a 10 on my left. It makes getting shoes a little bit more challenging for Molly.
Yeah, and this is too tight in here.
Mm-hmm. Right, because I feel like
bubbling out here.
Maybe my toes are not quite on the floor either.
Yeah.
Like I can't feel the ground.
Yeah, you're not all the way down.
Yeah.
And you're pushing over.
For a ballet dancer, point shoes are like the most important instrument that you have. It's basically an extension of your body. It can make or break a line. For a dancer, it's a big deal.
If we're talking point shoes, for example, you consider a lot of different factors. You consider the length, obviously. You consider the width of the foot. You also consider the toe length and shape.
Yeah.
You also have to look at things like compressibility. If your feet can compress like this when they're squeezed, then you will have a different need as opposed to if they just spread out when they're squeezed, if they don't go anywhere.
I've been told that I always had Fred Flintstone feet ever since I was growing up, that they're really wide around the balls of my feet. So I need something that basically stretches out to what my foot needs, which is a little bit different than most guys. Most guys will wear a little bit thicker material, but the shoe that I wear, it's a little bit thinner. It molds with your foot and relaxes with you. Our main focus through ballet is partnering the women and making them look light and effortless. To do that, we're a bit more grounded and a bit more into the earth, and our choreography is also more jumping based to get that across. Flat shoes more effective for a male dancer. Male dancers don't go through as many shoes as the female dancers do. Guys can usually make a flat shoe last essentially as long as they want. They can last a month to 2 months or as short as a week.
A typical pair of point shoes for us would be anywhere from 75 to 110, just one pair, and the ladies might go through 2 to 3 pairs a week. It depends on what they're dancing, it depends on how much they're dancing, and it depends on the brand of shoe that they're wearing. For different ballets, the choreographer might have a vision of what they want the costumes to look like, what they want the bodies to look like, and that starts with the movement and goes all the way into the costume to the end of the foot. For the men's flat shoes, we will dye them to match their costumes. And sometimes it could be just a slight variation where we need cream and not white. I love ballet so much. It is just the greatest thing. And the dancers here are unbelievable. They're unbelievable. They're unbelievably good and they're unbelievably dedicated. And every time I go and see a show, I'm so inspired. They make me want to do my job well.
Returning home now for our Louisiana Treasures segment. Many of us have seen that photo of former Governor Jimmy Davis riding up the steps of the state capitol on horseback. But what you might not have seen is the actual saddle once owned by the governor. Here's Doug Harrison of the Louisiana State Archives to introduce us to a very particular and very Louisiana seat of power.
Well, this saddle belonged to Governor Jimmy Davis, who was a two-term governor of the state from 1944 to 48, and then again from 1960 to 64. And when Governor Davis passed away, a lot of his materials were taken here, and some of them to Southeastern. A lot of his manuscript collections are at Southeastern, and a lot of the memorabilia that we received, and this was a beautiful saddle that was presented to him, and we became the custodians of it after his death. Davis was a country boy. He had grown up in Beach Springs, Louisiana, which is now pretty much a ghost town. up in Jackson Parish. And he never fully shed his rural roots, even though he went on to live in Shreveport and eventually in Baton Rouge and became involved, as most people know, in Hollywood and the recording industry. He never really lost his country roots, and he would go back to Jackson Parish and to his family property to recharge his batteries and ride horseback and get back in touch with his rural roots. There is some footage of him riding up the steps of the Capitol on horseback. He made his sort of debut in the music recording business, and that was before he became a governor. And then in between his 2 terms as governor, he made quite a name for himself, along with others like Gene Autry, as singing cowboys in what was termed as horse opera movies of the day, and became quite well known. And You Are My Sunshine, I believe country music, the Academy of Country Music has made that one of their top 100 country music songs of all time. So he's a very accomplished artist as well as a politician.
Traveling southwest now to Mexico, where the Zapotec Indians of Oaxaca have been weaving textiles for more than 2,000 years. Porfirio Gutierrez honors his ancestors by keeping this age-old tradition alive. Here's a look.
So each piece tells a story. We call this the cycle of life. Each step from the day we're born, each step represents each stages of our lives. So here, these are the stages. Here's where we inquire all the knowledge and wisdom, and we inherit that to our kids, and they begin their own life. My village is called Teotitlan del Valle, which means a place of God. This small village, it's in the state of Oaxaca. So this village, the historians believe that it was one of the first villages that was created by the Zapotec Indians hundreds and thousands of years ago. Will be woven on the loom. I have to take into consideration of what the loom is allowing me to do, and then from there I have to go around the limitations of the loom so I could create the design that I'm visualizing. That consists in thread per inch, the width of the yarn, and the size of the loom. Whether the loom, if I'm working in a small piece, some of my pieces are woven sideways. When it's done, it's presented the other way. So when you're weaving these, your mind, it's kind of thrown away because you're looking at this design as you're weaving it a certain way. When you're done with the weaving, it's exhibit in a different way, which that's what I originally wanted to do. I feel like I have the tools for me to educate the world about my art. You mentioned that it's something that's disappearing. The synthetic dye was introduced in my village in around the 1850s. The villagers rapidly abandoned their ancient tradition of working with plants, minerals, and insects. It's easier and it's cheaper to do. So mass-produced market came along, and there's no more true soul to each piece. Then it becomes a product. So they lost touch with our tradition. They lost touch with, and I think they lost their respect, perhaps, for my tribe, because they're not honoring our ancestors through their technique, through the methods, through the way the whole piece is being created. They lost it. So many generations ago, they don't practice that no more. Everything's chemically dyed. So we're the last few families in the village, Teotitlan del Valle, that still have the knowledge and are committed enough to create each piece. And each piece we honor those true artisans or artists that started, that did all the research. And how would a beetle will give you red? Someone had to do that. And my ancestors did it more than 2,000 years ago. We're proud to still have the knowledge, and we're proud to honor those people through each piece we create. I'm just in love with my culture, and I love what I do, and I love to represent the Zapotec community as much as I can, and hopefully my forefathers are looking down on me and be proud of what I do.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Art Rocks. But remember, you can always watch episodes of the show at lpb.org/artrocks. And in addition, Country Roads is a great place to find out about what's going on with the arts all across the state. Until next week, I'm James Fox Smith, and thanks for watching.